Hello friends, welcome to TechnoGeek SFDC. So in today's video, we are going to discuss another coding scenario which are very frequently asked in any of the Salesforce developer interviews. Okay, so basically any interviewer tries to understand what's your approach towards any problem statement. So they will give you a very plain statement, something like write a code to capture total count of opportunity record on parent account or the parent related account. Okay, now here they have not mentioned anything like whether you have to go with the trigger, you have to go with the apex or anything like that. Okay, but if you see the statement properly, right, what they are asking, write a code to capture total count of opportunity record on parent account record, right? But this will happen only if there is certain DML operation on opportunity, right? They are telling that you have to capture the count, but when to capture the count, right? That's where you can easily see that if they're asking when to capture the count, this means if there is any operation happening on the opportunity record. So post that operation, you need to capture the count. Otherwise, there is no use of writing that logic, right? Because if there is no operation on the opportunity record, there is no way that the count is going to vary until unless you are not touching the opportunity record. So this means that when your DML is happening on the opportunity record, this means DML can be anything. It can be insert, update, delete, undelete, right? So if your DML is happening, that's where the main possibility is that your count may vary. That is the number of child opportunities on any account will vary. Okay, that's where you can easily think of going towards the trigger. Okay, that's where you can tell that you will be using a trigger in your logic so that whenever any DML will happen on the account record, that's sorry, on the opportunity record, that's where you can capture that event and then you can do the calculation and update the total count on the account record. Okay, so this is the point where you can decide whether you will go ahead with the classes or you will go ahead with the trigger. Next is what type of trigger. Okay, so here there are two things. First is either you will go ahead with the before context or after context. Okay, so in this case you will go ahead with the after context. The reason is the update what you need to do is not on the opportunity record. It's on a separate record which is related to opportunity, that is account record. So in these types of scenarios where you have to do the update on the related objects, in those scenarios you go ahead with the after context. Okay, so this is clear. You will be using apex trigger and then you will be using after context. Next is what all events you need to consider. So here again you can think that what are the events which can which can manipulate the count, right? So there will be only four events which can manipulate the count. Either when you are inserting an opportunity, okay, so during the insert again it will be like increasing the count, right? Next is when you are transferring the opportunity from one account to another account. Okay, that's where the count will decrease on one opportunity and it will increase on another opportunity on another account. Sorry, not on opportunity, on the account record. Next is your delete, where the count will decrease, and then next is the undelete, where again the count will increase. So these are the four events which will trigger the or which will cause the change in the count of the opportunity number on the account record. Okay, so you need to consider these four events. Okay, so these are the three basic things what you need to consider, that or what you can explain even to the interviewer, that by considering these scenarios you have decided to go ahead with the apex trigger on opportunity record for after insert, after update, after delete and after undelete. You see, in all these events at the end what you need to do, you need to basically you need to basically get a count, right? Count of opportunities, right? So in that case, we will be having a common generic method. So we will start coding and we will see further how you can do it. Okay. So as we discussed, first thing is you will be having a trigger on opportunity, right? So for that, we will be creating an opportunity trigger handler. This is as a part of best practice that all your business logics should be done in the handlers of the triggers. Okay. So let's say I'll create a new class. Okay. I'll write opportunity trigger handler. Okay, Now in this, what I need to do is I need to basically create a generic method which will give me the count, right? And what should be the input of that generic method? The input of that generic method will be account ID. Okay, so or the list of account IDs whose child record count you need to fetch. Okay, so here we will use a here we will use a generic method which will be having list of account IDs as an input. Okay, so we will first create a account we will create a generic method like public void and then count number. I'm just giving a, and then here it will be list of ID and I'll give account IDs. Now to count any to count the number of related records, okay, there are two ways. Either you can use an inner query in the in your SOQL queries, and then you can keep on incrementing the values, and then you can get the count. Another way is, but that is not more efficient. The reason is in the, so okay, so I'll show you how usually people end up doing it. So it will be like for account ACC, then let's say I'll use select ID comma select ID from opportunities from account. Okay, let's say where ID in, I'll use this. Okay, and then inside this again you will again usually candidate starts writing for loop OPP equals ACC dot opportunities. This is also one way, but this is not an optimized way. The reason is, first of all, you are doing for loop inside for loop, right? So this is first of all not recommended from the Salesforce end, as well as it will increase your execution time as well. So let's say if you are using for loop inside for loop and then again you are going on looping and counting the number of records into it. So it's not that efficient way. Instead of this, okay, instead of this whole part, what we are going to do, we are going to use the aggregate queries. So aggregate queries are also one of the feature provided by Salesforce, where instead of looping through the child records and all, you can do the aggregation in a single query itself, like counting the number of queries, or if you want to find out the sum of, sum of some values, or if you want to find out minimum, maximum, average. So these aggregate mathematical operations can be done by using your aggregate queries. Okay, so in this scenario, our best bet will be using the aggregate queries. Okay, so how we can do that? So aggregate result ARS. Okay, so basically the return type of aggregate queries are aggregate result. Okay, now how to determine whether it's an aggregate query? So any SOQL query where you see a function like count, min, max, average, they are considered as aggregate queries. Okay, so let's say I'll use now select, and then what I need to do, I need to find out the count of opportunity records, right? So this means if I find out the count of count of the opportunity record ID, I will get my values. Okay, so let's say I'll use count of ID PP. I'm just giving a local name for it so that it will be easier to refer it in the next set of code. Okay, so let's say I'm giving like this, and then I'll also be using account ID from opportunity where account ID in list of account ID group by. So we are using group by as well here, so that for each account, how many, what is the total count or the number of the IDs, opportunity IDs associated with that particular account, you will be easily getting it. So I'll be using group by account ID. Okay. Now, next what we need to do, we need to update on account record, right? So let's say I'll do something like this. ACC equal new account, and then ACC dot ID will be ARS dot get account ID. Okay, so this is the way of getting the field values from any aggregate queries where you use uh, get and followed by the field API name. Similarly, if you want to get the value of average or let's say count or min or max, then that's where you can utilize your local variable which you have assigned to it. Like here, what I have done, OPP. Okay, and then let's say, okay, I think I don't have any field on account, so I'll just create a field called a number field on account, which will be storing this value. Okay, let me see if I have something called total count or something. Mm, I don't think so I have any field. So I'll create a new field here that is total opportunity. Okay, that will be of number type. I'll keep it as number, and then I'll give like total opportunity or opportunities, better sound, right? And I'll give, let's say, 10. Now I will use this field, okay, dot total opportunities equals, it will be, I'll make it as decimal, because number fields are basically in a decimal format. Okay, so I'll use ARS dot get, and if you see, I will use OPP. So what I am doing here, I am using the local variable which I had assigned to this particular operation. So basically, count ID is an operation which will return me some value, and I'm storing that value in OPP local variable. This I can refer here. Okay, and let's say I'll just create another list of account. ACC list equals new list of account, and I'll just add into dot add ACC. Now if ACC dot size is greater than 0, then update ACC. Okay, so this is our small logic what you can use here. Let me see what is the error. Okay, no error. So this is a small logics to basically count. So here what we are doing, we are basically getting the account IDs. Okay, so we have a trigger handler in which we have written a generic method which will count the number of opportunity IDs associated with the account. So since you need to find the opportunity IDs related to account record, that's why we are passing account IDs here. Okay, and then we are using a aggregate query to find the count of opportunity IDs. So count of opportunity IDs will give me number of opportunities associated to a particular account, right? Because your opportunity IDs are unique, so it will never be like, repeated ID. So it is always unique, so that's why you will get a proper count here. Okay, and also I am using a group by, so that it will give me result in a format that for this particular ID, this is the count. For this particular, let's say for account 1, this is the count. For account 2, this is the opportunity count. Like that, it will give me the format, so that I can, next part is I need to just update the number which I have received from the query. I can just update on the account record. Okay, and then I can just update the list. So this is the This is a class. Okay, we have written a generic method in a opportunity trigger handler class, but how to use it, right? So in that case, let me see if I already have a trigger on opportunity. Okay, so I'll try to use this trigger itself. Okay, instead of creating a new one. Otherwise, it will, or maybe I'll do one thing. I'll deactivate this and I'll create a new trigger from fresh so that it will be easier to understand. Okay, now we will create it. So this is the method which we created, but how we will call this method, from where we will call this method. So to calling this method, we need to have a trigger so that any change in the opportunity record will trigger your trigger classes, which in turn will call your handler and this method to return you the proper count. So I'll use a trigger. Let's say I'll use opportunity trigger here, and I'll use the object called opportunity. Okay, so it has created before insert, but since in our case we need to update on a related record, that is related account record, that's where we will be using the after context. If it was on the same opportunity record, then we could have thought of using before context, but here it has to be after. Okay, so let's say I'm giving you after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. Okay, so these are four events which we need to capture. Now we will start with if trigger dot is after. Okay, so this code block will have all the after events. Now we will create a separate code blocks for after event, or let's say insert, update, delete, undelete. So we'll create a separate blocks for them. Okay, so let's say if trigger dot is insert. Okay, so here what we need to do, again we need to just query on the new opportunity record OPP, that is your trigger dot new. Okay, now I'll just create a list of ID, account IDs equals new list of ID. Okay, now what I need to do here is I need to capture the OPP ID in the list. Okay, so I'll first check if p dot account ID is not equal to null. Okay, then in that case add opp dot account id. Okay, so it will get me the account id on which I need to do the recalculation because the opportunity record has been inserted now. Okay, so this is after insert, and then you need to just call this trigger handler passing the id. So let's say I have count number, right? So I'll just do something like opportunity OTH equals new opportunity trigger handler OTH dot, you have a count number, this is a method, right? Count number, and you can just pass this ID. Okay, so this is one way. Similarly, if you want to what is the error, let me just see this. Okay, no, that's okay. So in developer console it takes a little time to execute. Okay, now similarly we'll go for if trigger dot is update. Okay, here again we will be doing the same logic, right? Now here one more thing you need to consider is that you need to do the recalculation only if your I mean the related account record has been changed. Otherwise there is no need of doing the count calculation, right? The count will remain same. Okay, so what we will do here, and acc dot account, oh sorry, opp it is, right? Opp dot account id is not equal to trigger dot old map dot get, because trigger dot old map will give you the previous version of your opportunity record, right? Dot account id, right? Then here you need to add both the accounts here. Okay, so you have checked that account record has been updated, right? Next part is you need to add, okay, dot both the account ID, like the previous one and the new one. The reason is you need to do the counting on both, right? Because when you're changing the account, a related account, so the number will increase on the new account record, and it will decrease on the previous account record. So the calculation has to happen on both the records. That's where you will be passing both the account IDs to do the calculation here, right? And then again, you got the ID, and next is you can just call this method. So this is how you can do for insert update. Similarly, if you want, you can also do for delete. I'll just write for delete as well. Okay. Okay. So now, as you know that delete variables, they don't have. Okay. I need to pass this as well. Right. Okay. Account ID. Okay. As you know that trigger dot is delete, or basically the delete context of the trigger will never have the trigger dot new. They will only have trigger dot old, right? So in that case, what you need to do, again, you can follow the same step here. Instead of trigger dot new, you can just pass trigger dot old. Okay, instead of trigger dot new, you can just use trigger dot old, and then you can just follow the same step. Okay, so this is the way of doing these types of counting. Okay, now what will happen if, okay, so if I save this, let me just quickly save it. Okay, so this got saved. Similarly, you can write the same. It's going to be the same logic for even after undelete as well. Okay, so your is insert and is undelete, they both are treated as same because they both will be having trigger dot new, right? Now let's try to execute this, and we'll see how it is going to behave. So let me see if I have any opportunity existing. Okay, so I have, let's say, 1 2 3 3. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, I have something called checking 2 3 4 something, right? Let me open this, and this is associated with this account record, that is Kabir Singh Iterator, just a account name. Okay, so currently, let's say if I change this particular checking 3234 opportunity account, okay, let's say if I'm changing this account with with some other account, okay, so let's say I'm doing with which one is better? Okay, so United Oil SLA, not this. I'm just checking one some. Okay, so let's say I have this account called Demo Contact. Okay, or Burlington. So let's say I'll change it to Burlington, right? And I'll save this. Now, if I go to Burlington account, okay, here, let me see. Yeah, so if you can see here, it is showing me total opportunities as 2, right? And earlier, if we see on this Kabir Singh iterator, it was having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But now if I go on this record, it should give me 5 because my opportunity got changed from Kabir Singh to some other Burlington account, right? So it is now showing me 5, right? Similarly, if I create a new opportunity under, let's say here, or let's say under Burlington, I'll create. Okay. So if I'm creating a new opportunity, right? Now if I save this, I'll just refresh the account record. See, the total opportunity got updated with the count of 3, right? So this is how your insert and update is happening. Similarly, if you will delete, it will reduce to 2 because your count has been reduced. Okay. So this is how you can use the aggregate queries for these types of scenarios. See, if you want to optimize this, there is also a better way of optimizing that you can just put this part here. Okay. And then you can just take out this complete stuff and you can put something like here. Okay. Ins- Actually, instead of rewriting the same code again and again, I am just doing this. Okay. So that I don't need to rewrite the same code. Instead, it will just check what is the list, right? So this will be more readable format that you have a list of account IDs here, and then on insert we are checking if it is not null, then you can just add it. On update, you are adding both the values, that is previous one and the new one, right? And on delete, again you are adding the IDs, and then finally you are calling the generic method of counting the number and updating the account record with a total number, right? So this is the most optimized way of doing these types of scenarios if it is being asked in your interviews, right? Where you can directly use aggregate result instead of putting any other different logics and getting it confused. You can simply go ahead with the aggregate queries, use the aggregate query, and then you can just group it with the account or whatever the parent record is, and you can get the proper format. Okay, so let me just run this on the developer console as well and show you how this aggregate query will return you the result. Okay, so let's say I just put it here. I'll just remove the where clause. Okay, and if I execute this, see. So what it is doing, it is giving me the account ID along with the total number of records or the opportunities under it. So it's giving me basically count of ID, which is again, it's a unique stuff always in the Salesforce. Record IDs are unique. So these are count of opportunity IDs under this account. So you will get in this format, and then further it is very easy to, pick it up, and then you can just update the records. Okay. So I hope you got an idea of how you can tackle these types of interview questions if it is being asked. Okay. So first of all, try to understand what they are asking. Okay. First thing is, if they're not telling anything regarding, if you have to write a trigger or if you have to write the class or anything, then just try to read the statement completely, that whether it is asking to perform the logic based on certain record manipulation, or how it will be. Because in our scenario, you need to count the total number, but the total number will only change if the opportunity record is either inserted, updated, or deleted. This means your record manipulation is coming into picture. So if record manipulation is coming into picture, then in that case you need to go ahead with the apex trigger. Okay. And since it is updating the parent object, that is a different object, that is account. So next part is you can use after context, and since it is a count, so you can consider your all the events like insert, like all the events where the counts can vary, okay, can change. So that's where it will be after insert, after update, after delete, and even after undelete. Okay. So considering these points in mind, you can have a handler class. In the handler class, you can just write a simple logic to use the aggregate query, get the aggregate count and update it on the parent record. Okay. And then from the trigger, you just need to call those particular call that particular method, the aggregate method. So I hope you got an idea of how you can uh, easily solve these types of scenarios. And if these being asked in the interviews, definitely you will be able to now, easily explain, and easily you will be able to write the code. So with this, we will wrap up today's video. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and we will come up with more different scenarios like this, which is not even helpful in your interviews, but also in your day-to-day practicing purpose, so that you can get more confidence in the Apex coding side. Okay, or basically in the Salesforce customization side. So with this, we will wrap up today's video. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.